Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. Adamson, the English subject leader, and I'm going to give you some information to help you to revise for English. You're studying two separate qualifications for English, GCSE English Language and GCSE English Literature, and I'm going to give you some information and some useful hints and tips about how best to revise for both of these qualifications. The first thing you should do for your GCSE English Language qualification is to learn the exams. There are two separate exams for this qualification, and each exam has 5 separate questions. Each of those separate questions will be asking you to do something different and to use different skills. So you really need to learn those questions off by heart. For example, English Language Paper 1, Question 1 will ask you to list 4 things, but this is a different question to English Language Paper 2, Question 1, which will ask you to identify true or false statements. Similarly, the two writing pieces on the language papers are very different, and you really need to know what the differences are between these so you can best prepare for them. Paper 1 asks you to produce a creative writing piece, and paper 2 will ask you to produce a viewpoint piece. So it's really important to understand and learn the exams and their questions off by heart. To help you with your reading revision for English language, there are quite a lot of activities that you can do at home in addition to any homework or specific revision that your teacher may give you. For example, you could read through some of the past exam papers, particularly the extracts, which include some good quality reading materials which will be very similar to the reading you will do in the exam. These are all available to you on Frog, on AQA website, and also your teacher can point you in the right direction for these as well. You could also, in your own time, read some fiction and non-fiction pieces, perhaps a page from a novel, a short story. Online, you could read blogs, an online news story, newspaper article, and even a letter. It's really important that you read the words that are used in these pieces. You could practice doing that in your day-to-day life by looking at some interactive reading pieces, such as films, TV programs, YouTube, etc. The main thing you need to do with these is to identify some of the exciting language, some of the really good descriptions, perhaps look at the way the writers present their viewpoints, look at some exciting language devices, similes, metaphors, etc. And I think it would be important also to practice talking about some of these, perhaps with your parents' help as well at home. For your English language writing revision, there are lots of activities that you can do outside of school to support your studies in lessons. It's really important that you check your spelling, your punctuation, and your grammar. And you can even do this if you're putting some posts on Snapchat, Instagram, sending text messages, WhatsApp messages, etc. It would be really good for you to use some exciting vocabulary. You can even do this in conversations with your parents and friends. It's important also for paper 2 that you learn and feel confident with using persuasive and argumentative language. And I'm sorry if parents perhaps find this slightly annoying at times, but it is really good practice, girls. You could create some storylines, create some characters, and put your characters into some situations so that you're ready to write a story for language paper 1. It would be a really good idea as well to look around at some of the gorgeous, beautiful things that we have in our world and maybe describe them. Think about how you would describe a particular situation or event, particularly an exciting situation or event that you've been in. You could also talk about real life events in an exciting and exaggerated way, perhaps recalling those events to your friends and family and try and make them really interesting and engaging for the person who's listening to you. All of this is really good practice for your writing skills because you will need to write a creative writing piece and you will need to present a viewpoint piece in your English language exams. For your GCSE English Literature qualification, you need to be really familiar with and to have read all of the 4 key texts. The first one is William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which is a firm favourite in our academy. The second one is a Victorian Gothic novel, Jekyll and Hyde, which again we all seem to enjoy very much. An Inspector Calls is the modern play, and it's really important that you get to grips with the play, its characters, plot, and key quotations as well. It would also be worth your while reading a range of unseen poetry, and we will give you some information later on in the presentation about where you can find some of these poems so you can read them and enjoy them at home as well. As well as reading the set texts and a range of poetry, it's really important that you understand the plot of all of these. You must learn the sequence of events in each of the texts. What happens, who it happens to, and when it happens. You also must learn some quotes from the three texts. You could perhaps read them out loud at home, and I'm sure your parents would like to help you with this also. The exam board expects you to learn and remember 5 key quotations from each of the texts as a minimum. You should also look at language features and poetic devices in all of the texts. At home, perhaps you could create some posters for these. Another good activity would be to create character profiles for all of the characters in the books that you are reading. You could create some theme charts, particularly if you find common themes that link the characters and the events together. It's really important that you research and understand clearly the different contexts of the different books that you will be reading. So, for example, 16th century Catholic Italy for Romeo and Juliet, Victorian London for Jekyll and Hyde, and 20th century Great Britain for An Inspector Calls. Other things you could do at home would include creating a quiz and testing yourself, or perhaps even doing this online and testing friends if you can. You could watch film versions as well, because the film versions give you a really good understanding of the plot of all of the key texts.
As well as learning about all of the set texts for literature, it's really important that you do some practice at home. The first and most important skill that you need to practice is reading. Read those set texts, become really familiar with them. You literally cannot read them enough. Practice exploding the quote. Find a key quotation. Have a look at key words within that quotation and really have a good think about what those words are really telling you about the characters, about the action, about the themes and the context of that particular quotation. You could also practice writing about specific quotes and keywords within those quotes as well. You could also practice talking about the texts. It's really good to talk about what you've been reading. Perhaps your parents could help. I'm sure they'd be quite interested in listening to your ideas and opinions about these wonderful literature texts. One of the best things you could do to prepare for the exam is to open any one of the set texts at random. Look at a particular extract and try and see if you can identify exciting language within that. Again, zooming in on those key quotations, some of the fabulous language that might be used, and really having a good think about why the writer has used that particular technique. Again, just to emphasise that reading really is the best practice that you can do for your literature exams. And you should read those texts over and over again so that you feel really comfortable, confident and familiar with them before the exams. To help support your English language and English literature studies at home, there are some fantastic online resources. Your first starting point should be our own virtual learning environment, Frog, and there are some fabulous activities on there that your teachers will upload for you. We also have a brand new audio lesson area with some exciting audio lessons that are available to all of you. The AQA website is quite useful, and GCSE Pod is a fantastic environment where you can look at some podcasts, do some quizzes, and really get to grips with lots of revision for English language and English literature. Seneca Learning is a free website, again, with lots of useful resources, as is BBC Bitesize. Spark Notes is really good for English literature, and there's a lovely website called writersedit.com, which will help you to think about writing a short story. Writingexercises.co.uk is another useful website if you're thinking about creative writing. And the poetryfoundation.org is an excellent website to find all of those lovely poems that will help you to revise for the unseen section of the English Literature qualification. To help you with your literature studies, there are plenty of opportunities for you to look at free versions of the literature texts online. On Frog, we've actually uploaded the 3 set texts for you, and these are free for you and available all of the time. Also, Gutenberg.org have examples of all of these texts as well if you wanted a slightly different version. There are video versions of the set literature texts as well, and these could be available on Netflix and other streaming platforms. It would also be useful for you for your English language exams to try and maybe read some really good quality literature to help prepare you for paper 1 as well as paper 2. You could look at the writing of Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, Charlotte Bronte, and more recently perhaps Roald Dahl, Ian McEwan, J.K. Rowling, James Dashner, John Green and Philip Pullman, just to name a few. To further support you with your GCSE English Language Paper 2 revision, it would be a really good idea for you to read some good quality non-fiction pieces. So for example, you could go on The Guardian, The Times or the Telegraph newspaper website, read some articles which will be written by some really talented writers. Also, the National Geographic website, BBC News website and even Teen Vogue would have some high quality pieces of non-fiction that would help you to prepare for this exam. Watching TV documentary programmes would also be another way that you could listen to and reflect on the way that presenters present their viewpoints about particular topics, particularly if they're trying to persuade you to a particular idea. You could also make use of the CGP revision guides for both English language and English literature, because these have some excellent resources and excellent revision tips to help you with both of these qualifications. Finally, here are some English revision top tips. Really know what exam skills you need before you go into each of those 4 exams. Know the questions off by heart. Know exactly which question appears on which paper and what you're expected to do for that question, because that will make you feel really comfortable and confident when you go into the exam. Secondly, really try with your reading skills. Reading is so important in English, and there are lots of ways that you can practice your reading skills outside of lessons and outside of school. This is the same for your writing skills. Practice writing short stories, descriptions, viewpoint writing pieces, because this will help you to improve your skills for English language. For English literature, really practice writing some exam answers under timed conditions, and this will make you feel confident when you go into the exam. And finally, if you're not sure, if you're in doubt about any of this, or you're not quite sure how to revise for English, please just ask your English teacher. We are here to help you, and we really want to get the best for all of you. So please feel free to contact the English department at any time, and I promise that we will help you with all of your revision and your studies. Good luck, girls. We really believe in you, and we know that you can do super well.